We are here to share our experiences and ideas at the Gamers Hall. Today's conundrum is about unconventional uses for classic spells in Dungeons & Dragons. We hope that these ideas inspire new surprises and stories for you and your friends. Or for you and your friends, if you have them.
I'm pretty sure no one's playing this game alone.
Alright, Tensor's Floating Disc. The spell that has been definitely in since...
I want to say first edition.
It was in first edition. It was, because...
didn't Gary Gygax make it himself? Yeah. It was one of his wizards?
One of his Tensors, yeah.
Yeah.
At the namesake.
Right.
And it definitely had... it's been in...
almost every edition of D&D.
Since second edition, for sure, it's been in every book. In some form or fashion.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure it's called Tensor's Floating Disc every single time. And what it does is, in case you don't know, pretty sure you do, it carries stuff. It's a disc.
Yeah.
It holds a certain amount of weight.
3 foot diameter disc that's 1 inch thick and can carry 500 pounds, I believe.
Right. And what it's supposed to do is basically follow along after you, carrying your stuff like a cart. That's what it's doing. It's just carrying your stuff. So, it doesn't seem like there's a lot you can do with it, but I know for a fact there was one time it was used to great effect in one of my campaigns. I ran a one-shot in Eberron, and I was doing it on trains, and it was a snowstorm.
Yeah.
It was, the wind was blowing, the train was moving fast, it was not safe to go between
cars.
In between the cars. I had a little bit of extra space here because it was dealing with some with cargo and other things. So my players, one being Chris and another new person that I had playing the game, his very first time ever playing, and they had to get between it, and they had to get safely. Now, I was going to give them a high DC of not messing up because all the ice and all this, and they're not built to do this.
No, I was an artificer wizard.
Right. So...
yeah, what I did was I created Tensor's Floating Disc, and the other guy would sit on it, and I would push him over to the other side, and
he carried a rope to the other side. And then I would back up, and it would follow me. I'd sit on it. He'd toss the rope over and pull me across. Yeah, well, it would sit. The rope was sitting on the disc as you backed up, so the rope was there. So all you do is get back on there, grab it, and then pull across. Homemade bridge.
Yeah,
I mean,
worked to great effect.
It did. I mean, you can. It makes a homemade stretcher. I mean, yes, it's basically you're still using it for its intended purpose, but also it can be a barrier. It is a piece of force, is a something that people cannot go through. So you got a hole in the ground you need to plug up. You're being chased by a bunch of kobolds or very, very angry dwarves. Why don't you just stick it on top of the hole that they're about to pop out?
I think there's actually a rule for that. It when it goes over a hole, it actually will sink down.
Well, cool.
But it become a stopper at that point because it just continues going down. But like you couldn't take it like off a mountain and continue going across. It would stop
if it's a hole. Or you're climbing up. Let's say you're in Waterdeep and you're climbing up some tall buildings and somebody's chasing you. Well, just drop a Tensor's Floating Disc in their way. I mean, if you're something like New York City or any other metropolis, they might have the stairways on the outside, which I can't think of their names at the moment. But if you just block the way for them to come up, and if it tries to go down, and I mean, you can make it float wherever you want to float, and as long as you don't get too far away from it, they're not going to get through that force without busting through it.
Yeah.
And then that may save you a turn, 2 turns, or the entire time where they can't get to you, and you've had time to possibly rest or
Yeah, or like I mean, it's
maybe
it's apparently pretty strong. What if you just used it to barricade a door? Now the door can't open because it's physically holding it there.
And if anybody wants to get into the math of it and the physics, then I guess you just have to say, well, whatever force needs to bust this thing needs to be able to break at least 500 pounds of pressure onto it, and then it would go away. But if anything, it's a short stopgap to protect you. Just like, sometimes you don't want the door to come open with that ogre on the other side, so maybe you might throw your rod of...
Immovable rod?
Yeah, your immovable rod. Yeah, my mouth was not movable on that point. Your immovable rod in it to stop it. Well, you got a spell that can do that too.
Yeah. Or... Imagine if you had like a player, all wizard party, like you could almost stack them at an edge. No, or you couldn't stack them on top of each other and use them like a ladder, could you?
No. You couldn't do that. But what you could do is you could make a train, like a mag train. You got a wizard on the front and with a broom of flying. He creates a tensor's floating disc. One of the wizards sits on that tensor's floating disc, creates another tensor's floating disc, and the wizard creates a ten, and you make several, and then the wizard with the broom of flying just starts going this way, and his tensor will follow him, and his tensor will follow him, his disc, and his disc, and his disc, and hey, there you go. You have a train.
That you just have to keep casting every, after, 50 minutes? Because it takes 10 minutes to cast as a ritual at that point, but... Who cares? You're flying and moving. That's no problem. You could literally just go across.
You could get across lakes. You could get across lots of...
How much faster would your travel be, though? Because you're literally not walking, not exerting yourself. There's no exhaustion. You could probably travel double, if not triple, the distance you would normally get.
So... What you're saying is maybe inadvertently just found a way to break the game. Let's not start another commoner railgun kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, it would take a whole group of wizards to do that.
Which I could definitely picture maybe Thayish wizards doing that at some point. They each get on a disc and then they take a zombie or two, put it on them, and then they're transporting hordes of zombies quickly across terrain that way. I mean, it's definitely possible.
Why not?
I mean, it's another way to use tensor floating disk in the way that it would normally be used. Still within the same idea, but I mean, something different.
Yep. Let's go to the next spell. Enlarge and reduce.
Enlarge and reduce. Alright, so spell that's been around for a while. It used to be 2 different spells, and now it's 1 spell. I think at one point it was 2 different spells, then 1 spell, and then 2 different spells, and then 1 spell again.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I think in 4th edition they split it off. I can't remember exactly if they did that or not. But, so, this spell makes you bigger. When you get bigger, you can carry more weight. You can hit harder. You're harder to push around. I mean, you become... Medium creature becomes a large creature. Large creature becomes a huge creature. Blah, blah, blah. Vice versa. Reduced. You're harder to hit.
Lighter.
You fit in smaller places. And I believe that it's supposed to only be used... But mainly it's used on objects.
I mean, creatures and or objects.
Creatures and or objects. But yes. So, lots of ways you could finagle this particular spell if you need to. One classic way is, I found a boulder. I need to get boulder over there. Well, how do I get boulder over there when boulder weighs, let's say, 800 pounds, but my barbarian can only pick 200 pounds up? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to reduce that boulder, and we're going to let barbarian throw that boulder over there or carry it. Or say we have a...
Isn't that kind of the intention of the spell, though, already?
Somewhat of the intention of the spell, but I'm getting to it. Now, let's say we have a rock that weighs about 20 pounds. I can't put that rock into a sling. But what I can do is I can reduce that rock to make it small and weigh about 5 pounds, put it into a sling or throw it, cancel that spell, and all of a sudden you have a much bigger weight coming at somebody than they intended. Same thing goes for catapults.
You could reduce a 40-pound rock, so now that it weighs 5 pounds, and you could catapult it.
Mm-hmm.
And then release the spell. So now you've got the catapult spell on top of this. So you essentially just as a caster just threw a third level caster could do this through a boulder at somebody like a giant.
Yeah, which as a DM I would just say, well, how hard does a giant throw a boulder?
I mean, a catapult does 3d8.
Catapult does 3d8. A giant usually throws it for like 3d10 to 4d10, depending on it. So I'll just say, okay, well, it does 3d10 damage now. If it becomes the same size as a boulder, a giant would do. I mean, the spell is not intended for damage per se, but it can be used for that in some cases.
Yeah.
And
or you could do that and enlarge the boulder to now, like, if there was a doorway, you just block the doorway.
Right. Like, you definitely can do that. You just say, well, I don't want anybody getting by, so I just make something stop there. And then, hey, they can't chase us. There's lots of times you need to go away from things. So that's a great way of, I'll just take this short sword or this great sword and stick it in the hole and enlarge it and let it stick, and then you've got a homemade barricade.
I just thought about this though. How awesome would it be for a rogue? You could enlarge and reduce things, possibly giving you advantage or lowering the DC to try and steal something. You shake someone's hand at the same time you're casting enlarge on the ring, so you could slide it right off of their finger.
I feel like you'd want to get into some sorcery there, so you could do that as a subtle spell. But I mean, I don't see why you couldn't if you could figure out some way of doing that, especially
if you did steal something and someone saw it, you could reduce it and like hide it in a better spot, so it's like they're looking for something real big. Obviously they're not going to look in your pocket now, since it's the size has reduced so much.
We could say the crown jewels of England. You know, you got the crown, it's supposed to fit on a head. Well, if I reduce it, now it fits in a pocket. Boop.
Or
and
then you walk in your mouth.
Yeah, I don't think I want to eat that thing, but sure, I don't want to.
No, but who's going to search your mouth?
I mean, you're not supposed to put money in your mouth. I don't want to put that in your mouth, but sure, why not?
Because people search pockets, though.
Yeah. What happens when they ask you a question, hey, what are you doing here? And you're like,
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like,
I think you might be.
Is it small enough to fit under your tongue? Like,
I feel like that'd bring up more questions. But hey, but you know what?
An eighth of the size? I mean...
You know what? That would be extremely funny to deal with when you have to explain that to guards, how you got a tiny crown in your mouth.
Maybe you're using it to sneak things in. You're that spy, you need to get something in. It's like, oh, this sword? It's a letter opener. Ha ha.
Yeah, you could use it for that. Or
concealment purposes.
You could also use it maybe to trick other people into thinking you have something much greater than you do. Say you only have a light crossbow, right? Well, you're on top of a ramparts of a castle. You need maybe this opposing army or small battalion or squad coming towards this castle to think that you got something better. Well, why don't you just enlarge your light crossbow, and now it's an arbalist.
It's a mini ballista.
It's a mini ballista. It's, you know, it could be, well, not necessarily an arbalist, but yeah, ballista. So now you got something saying, check this out. You thought we didn't have a whole lot. Well, now we got something. You can large pots of boiling oil, I guess, maybe?
Yeah. Or what if you used it to for intimidation? Like, oh, I'm the orc, I'm the tank, whatever. I'm here. I'm gonna beat your ass. Give me your money. Boom. I'm sorry. What was that? You're gonna do what?
Yeah. Classic intimidation. I'm bigger than you. Shut up.
Yeah. Because I mean, technically you're just getting an extra damage boost. But if I saw a wizard just like suddenly get crazy tall, twice the size. Like, a wizard suddenly just became the size of an ogre, a skinny ogre. I'd be like, yeah.
I don't know if I want to necessarily mess with you.
You don't have to pay no tolls. I'm just not going to eat rolls today.
Yeah. Those are good uses of a lot of different spells that we've gone through now. There's a couple other ones. Little honorable mentions here, like Ray of Frost. Ray of Frost doesn't just do damage, it's cold. So you need to keep your beverage chilled. Precipitation does the same thing too, but hey.
But what if you wanted to make ice cubes and constantly keep your bar stocked?
Yeah,
you've always got that apprentice wizard behind the bar making ice cubes.
Perfect example is in Eberron. Lots of people know cantrips. Lots of people use magic. Well, instead of having a ice maker, you have a mage right that sits in the back just going Ray of Frost, Ray of Frost, Ray of Frost, and brings out trays of ice cubes.
Yeah. He's your milkshake man. He's your ice cream man.
Precipitation gets it cold. Ray of Frost gets it frozen.
Yeah.
What is another one we might have that we could
control flames?
Control flames. Yeah.
One thing I would definitely allow, like okay, for instance, tool proficiencies don't often get used in a lot of D&D games. So what if you had that smith who was like, okay, I want to make a weapon, I want to make armor. Okay, maybe I'll lower your DC because you're using control flames
to keep that perfect tempered steel, that perfect tempered iron, whatever you're working with. If you have an apprentice that has the ability to cast, just adding this spell in allows you to continually say, I'm keeping it at exactly 600 degrees Fahrenheit or 400 degrees Celsius or whatever.
I see that red cherry and that's what I'm going for. 392
Marflarks, whatever degree.
What is a Marflark?
No, it's fantasy. Who cares?
All right. Next up would be Shocking Grasp.
Hey, you want to play a great practical joke? Shocking Grasp them.
Oh, man.
The Joker's Joy Buzzer, for one. Just say, I'm going to do subdue. But hey, a clown, always coming up. Why not? Just, hey, how you doing? And then walk away.
But I also kind of feel like that's the intended use for it. What's an unconventional use for it? Or are you saying that you lower it down so much that it's more like a
You try not to hurt somebody. You're intentionally making the power of a spell not as much, which
I don't see why a caster couldn't lower the spell and be like, I'm just doing this as a joke. I'm not trying to kill them.
Honestly, if a caster can spend more into something to make it better, why couldn't they spend less of their power to make it worse?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, and especially with a cantrip is just, it goes up in power as you go up. I'm sure you could remember how powerful it was when you first started out. So what if you just said, well, I'm gonna just get it just enough for annoyance?
Yeah. It's either gonna do 1 damage or it's gonna do just enough to agitate somebody. It's a taser.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Effectively. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a different way of using it, I guess.
Yeah. Could you use Shocking Grasp to also like make glass? Or would that not be enough electricity?
I don't think that's... Well, I mean, if you got high enough level, yeah. I'm sure you could just hit some sand or some other type of silicate and then smack some electricity in it. You could do it. And actually, you know what? You with Shocking Grasp, if you can continue doing it every turn, you could probably... with your DMs, you could probably continually create glass out of that without having to worry about one big blast. You can just say, here we go, I'm going to keep shocking this until it gets to where I want it.
Yeah. Or could you use Shocking Grasp to like heat up water?
Yeah, that's how Electrolux
so like
ovens work now. They just electrical current.
You've got that apprentice who's constantly by a cauldron and he's just like shocking the hell out of it to keep it warm because maybe they couldn't find wood, or they don't have a way to make fire. Or maybe you could use it to actually make fire.
Well, yeah, it's definitely energy, but there's another way you can make steam with it. Because if you start shocking water, it actually spreads the oxygen and hydrogen atoms, if we're getting into science here, and creates gas instead of water. And well, now you have burst of oxygen and burst of hydrogen coming off of it, and then depending on whatever else is in the water, you know, it starts making steam. Or it could just, well, heated up water will make steam, obviously, but you know, you can use it to create some of that if you need it in a pinch. I don't know exactly how much you would create in one moment, but
you're playing a gritty survival campaign. You shock the water to create that steam. You have a catcher that funnels that steam off, and now you have pure water. You have drinkable water.
Yeah.
That you had to use a cantrip to find. You had to find dirty water.
Yeah.
Or you could probably do ocean water with it too, because the salt is not going to evaporate up
to desalinize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. You know, a sea campaign, you need fresh water. You know, get your local wizard that doesn't have the right spell and shot. You know, he's run out of his spells. You need water. He can't get a rest. Let's just try to.
You guys are on a boat. Like, we got to make some type of contraction so we can get some fresh water, so we don't die.
Let's just MacGyver this,
or Dark Sun maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely use it in Dark Sun.
Yeah.
If you can find water.
Good luck. Terrible place.
If you could find some type of mucky water in that setting. But I think that's all the spells we got for today. We'll tackle more first level spells in our next video.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll try and come up with some more ideas for different spells, and if you have more ideas for different spells that you would like to see, put it in our comments. Also, you know, we would love to come up with more ideas, so even if you have different ideas about stuff you would like to see, put that in our comments.
Alright, if you guys like these videos, like, share, subscribe, and until then, have fun gaming.
Alright, see ya.